Whoa, this is the illusion, reporting from somewhere on spaceship Earth. I'm on the front lines of life today, man. It constantly amazes me as much as you would try to achieve this positive, high frequency, all inclusive, empathetic reality, how utterly you can fail at it. And it's always with the people that matter the most to you in your life. And I trip on it, because I'm way more aware of it, and yet I'm way more susceptible to failing at it than I think I ever have been. And I realize that it's a lifetime pattern that's developed somewhere. And how do you break the chain of pain? And what do you do to alleviate the pressure on self, the pressure on the people that you care about the most, and make it a happy, positive dynamic? And I don't know, man. I utterly failed today. Like, and it's a sick feeling because I know that time is so elusive and molten, and we're only here for a brief moment, and to waste it in a negative space just kind of really like sucks. And it's a real drag because you can't unring that bell. I mean, once you've already committed the negative dialogue interaction, like, it's all damage control after that. And for me, it's I guess it's a time to, like, I gotta look inward and go, what is that? Like, why do I self-sabotage? And I mean, that's ultimately what it is self-sabotaging. It's never the other person. It's always me. I have to take responsibility for myself. Yeah, I mean, it takes two to tango, but ultimately, like, I have to elevate my consciousness to be in a place of way more empathy and understanding. And I found that I was taking these knitting lessons. I was taking knitting lessons for a hot second here a couple weeks ago. I went to this convention. We're working on this show that I've been working on, the Sideline Project. So I went to this knitting convention, and the gal was teaching me how to knit, and she's like, dude, you're super uptight. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, I can tell you're super uptight by the way you knit. And I'm like, really? You can tell by the way I knit how uptight I am? She's like, yeah, you can't be uptight and knit. It's like impossible to do. And I was just, doing this thing, and she's like, you gotta relax. And I think it was like sort of an aha moment for me. Because I really, as laid back as I am about like all these like big picture issues, on a certain ground level, I am like super uptight about things. And I don't know how to like lighten up. And it really gets me about like, time management. I'm super just wound tight about like when people aren't exactly on my schedule, and that's me trying to be in control, and I have to have surrendered that I'm totally unmanageable. I have no ability to control anything. And yet here I am getting all wound up about when people are showing up and when people are coming and going. And it's hard. It's hard to let go because I don't know where the letting go ends. I spent a lot of time like regrouping in this life, like kind of taking responsibility, and so yeah, like I've become this super kind of guy about like certain aspects of my life, like when it comes to like bill paying, like that's a positive feature, I think. And when it comes to me showing up as an employee, I think that's a positive feature. And yet when other people don't live up to my expectations, I get super uptight, and I suppose I get resentful, and it just jams me up. But I guess that's on like a random, like an inner societal connectivity level, I think. But I think what I'm really talking about here is the people that are closest to me. I am like sometimes like super unable to like be the person that we try to talk about on this channel, of like attempting to be like a high frequency positive being, and I find myself failing at it in the most important times. And I go, what is that? Like, why do I fail when it counts the most? And again, I go, it's all about like, yeah, there's no quick fix to this life. It's a journey of 1,000 mistakes as well as 1,000 footsteps. And you know, it's hard to heal a lifetime of weird and strange dynamic. And again, I guess it's that whole thing of like, you gotta get up, dust yourself off, and get back in the ring, right? Keep paddling, just keep paddling. And again, I suppose it's always about taking responsibility and admitting that there's no one else to blame but yourself. You know, if you plan on healing these dynamics, I suppose you got to come from it as how do I change how I interact? And it's a drag sometimes because I don't know what that is. Like, I don't know what it is. And there's more work to be done. There's more work to be done in this life. And I feel like sometimes, like when I blow it, I'm like, it really like makes it all just so fleeting. Like, I feel like I go to a lack of time space. I go to a lack of connection with God and my higher power. I just feel like all these negative emotions. I get into fear, self-doubt, self-loathing. It just sets off this cascading effect of like negative thoughts in my head. And yet I could have stopped that whole chain by just not saying anything. Again, I think one of the most valuable tools a human can have is shutting the fuck up. Excuse my profanity here, it really is. It just shut up, man. Don't say a word. Don't say anything, and don't do anything. Just take it. Because I find that sometimes, especially with the people I love and care about the most, the not consequence of not shutting the fuck up is really like lame and counterproductive and just non-empathetic and non-positive and non-frequency. And so again, like, I gotta go back to square one, man. I gotta go back to square one, admit defeat, admit powerlessness, admit unmanageability, and find a power greater than myself that can restore me to sanity. Because this this action is insane. It's just repeating negative patterns over again and hoping for a better result. Like, that's insanity. So, the only way to restore myself to sanity is to completely turn my will and my life over to a God of my understanding And I have not been getting on my knees in the morning and praying and doing the proper spiritual practices. And I guess it's shown the results are in, man. Like, fail, I failed. But what do you do with failure, man? Do you just sit and suck lemons, or do you make lemonade out of it? So that's where we are today on Rainbow Mountain, man. Blowing it. So look, I mean, I guess one of the things that I'm really about on this channel is it's not all easy. It's not all rainbows and unicorns. It's life is really about admitting faults and trying not to repeat these patterns time and time again, and getting to the root of why we do this to ourselves. Why do we self-sabotage? Why do we self-destruct when we don't need to? It's not necessary. And all it really does is harm other people, man. Our self-sabotage ultimately harms other people. Unfortunately, if it was just about self-sabotaging it, whatever, I just like botched my own scene. But usually in order to self-sabotage, we have to do it through inflicting our nonsense on other people, man. Ugh. Being a human's tough, man. It is a tough journey, man. And my hat's off to all of us who are on this journey to make our lives better, who are on this journey to improve ourselves and take responsibility to ourselves. It is a truly radical revolution. Well, this is the illusion, and we keep paddling.